Here we're going to make a canister with a lid that comes off. So you start by getting a slab and start with a piece of paper as your template, and you trace your long, thin piece of paper. Once you trace it, then you can cut out these piece of slab with a stick. Then we're ready, and now I'm going to try to form it into a round circle shape. I need to cut at an angle a 45-degree bevel on one side, and then I'm going to flip it over, and the other end is going to have a 45. So which end? You flip it over and you do the same angle that you did before, so that when you turn it into itself, they match. Your 45s match each other to make a flat wall. Now we're ready to do what? Guess what, guys? We're scoring both ends, and then we'll add slip. So both ends are scored, both ends need slip. So your slip should be the consistency of, say, yogurt or some pudding or something like that. Be generous with your slip. Now I need to work it so it gets round. I'm going to have to support that wall where I'm connecting it. So I'm going to have to push it. Be very careful when you push it together. And if you have to rub hard on the wall to even it out, then it's best to support it. Here I'm using a ruler, the straight edge of the ruler, to help support it. Now I'm turning it and turning it to make sure I round it off so it's round like a can, because we're making a canister. Now I'm wetting my hands so that I can roll a coil. I'm going to roll a thin coil, and I'm going to put it on the outside. Now you may choose to put it on the inside. It's up to you, but I personally would rather do it on the outside. My hands are kind of big and they won't fit in there. Now I'm supporting the walls with my fingers while I'm rubbing that coil in. And so now I'm going to twist it around and kind of pat it with my fingers to make it round. The next step is to trace one end that will be the cap on the bottom. And of course, guess what we do next? We cut it out, then we're going to score and then use slip. So we have to remember, anytime you weld pieces together, you must score both sides that are to connect and add a generous helping of slip. I prefer to use my finger. You may choose to use a popsicle stick to add the slip, but just so long as you're generous with the slip. Plus, I'm afraid that I'm in danger of stabbing the side of the canister, one of the walls. Now I'm adding the slip. Now I'm patting it down, and then I'm going to use the weight of it to drop it slightly so that it connects. So guess what we do when we do the other side? We do the same thing. So it's the same process, just repeated. Score both sides that are connected, add slip, and connect it. Notice how I'm supporting the walls between my finger, making sure that I don't cave in one of these walls, because the slab is very plastic, and it'll give in and collapse if you put too much weight on it or too much pressure on it. So you got to be gentle with it. Once you seal it on both ends, it's filled with air that kind of helps it hold its form together. And now the next step is to smooth it all out. The top, the bottom, the sides, wherever you welded it together. And then finally, your final step, what I did is I put the stick against the top of a cup so that it doesn't move. And I'm just twisting the canister against it so that I have a nice, straight, even cut. So now that one side fits the other. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to need a thin slab that I'm going to put on the inside wall, so to create a lip that holds the top in place. So now I'm going to have to score, add slip, and connect the wall. So that inner wall that I'm adding will keep the top of the lid of the canister in place when you close it. When you first make it, it's going to be very difficult to add the lid to it. So what I end up doing is I end up trimming it and rounding it off. And the next day when it's leather hard, you might have to go back and trim it one more time. But make sure you test it out. You trim it enough that you test it out so that it goes off and goes back on. You don't want to trim too much where the lid is too loose, but you want a little bit of a nice fit. Keep in mind, as clay dries and hardens, as it loses its moisture, it actually shrinks. So you want to be a little bit on the side of safety to make sure it's kind of a loose fit when you're putting that lid on. So notice I tested it out, and so I had to trim it more. And the following day, I'll end up trimming it more. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.